Erik stood alone, facing two bullies who relied solely on the power and influence of their families. But lacking true resilience and character, they were no match for Erik. With swift, clever moves, he defeated them in seconds, leaving them sprawled on the ground. The story then rewinds to 3 months earlier. During dinner, a fork accidentally fell to the floor, instantly creating tension. Erik's stepfather didn't let the minor mistake slide. He closed the door and responded with violence. Erik's mother, fully aware of what was happening, could only stand by, convincing herself that the abuse might somehow make Erik more obedient. After each beating, Erik was forced to pretend to reconcile with the man who hurt him. Over time, violence became a normal part of his life, but inside, resentment grew, like a flame waiting for the right moment to ignite. Eventually, that bottled-up anger exploded. Erik began lashing out, beating up classmates, and even injuring them in violent outbursts. His reputation as a troublemaker silenced everyone around him. No one dared step in. His fights escalated, and the principal's patience finally wore thin. After one serious altercation, Erik was called into the office and informed of his expulsion. The school had reached its limit. At home, his mother urged him to contact Gunnar, a family friend and experienced lawyer. Gunnar handed Erik his business card and said, "Call me if you need help." Erik took the card silently, unsure of what to say. Please help us to subscribe to our channel. We deeply appreciate if you comment and share. Okay, back to it. Surprisingly, his mother didn't scold him. Instead, she announced she had enrolled him in Starburg, an all-boys boarding school. This, she said, was his last chance. She begged him to make it count. Erik promised to change. He was determined to graduate without any more trouble. On his first day at Starburg, Erik showed up in a clean uniform, hair neatly trimmed, ready for a fresh start. His roommate, Pierre, known as the smartest student in school, turned out to be friendly and approachable. The two quickly became friends. That evening, they went to the dining hall, where Erik met Johan, a cheerful student who introduced him to the school's unique culture. Johan explained that here, social status mattered just as much as personality. As Johan spoke, two students called over a classmate sitting next to Erik. Their names were Otto and Alan, sons of powerful aristocrats. The boy they called out came from an ordinary background. Otto and Alan were infamous for bullying students from less privileged families. With family connections and positions on the student council, they abused their power freely and without consequence. After dinner, Pierre invited Erik to sneak outside for a smoke. Erik hesitated, recalling his promise to stay out of trouble. Johan warned that getting caught would lead to serious punishment. But Pierre laughed it off, insisting they'd be fine. Eventually, Erik gave in. The next morning at breakfast, Otto and Alan approached Erik and invited him to a so-called initiation ritual for new students. Erik flatly refused. Angered, they shifted their target to Johan. Later that night, a car sped toward Johan, leaving him seriously injured and hospitalized. Not stopping there, Otto and Alan planned their next act of bullying, this time targeting Erik. They summoned him to the student council room and ordered him to clean a pile of filthy shoes. Erik refused and walked away. Enraged by Erik's defiance, Alan asked Otto how to respond. Otto replied, "Not yet. Wait for the right time." Erik later told Pierre everything. Pierre listened in silence, visibly tense. He warned that opposing Otto and Alan was dangerous. Students who resisted were punished brutally. But Erik, once a bully himself, shrugged off the warning. He declared he'd never submit to their rule. That night, the two brainstormed ways to resist without using violence, but they quickly realized most students preferred to obey, choosing humiliation over beatings. The next day, Delan, another member of Otto's group, bumped into Erik in the hallway. Instead of apologizing, he arrogantly demanded an apology from Erik. Erik refused. Furious, Delan challenged him to a fight that night.
Erik arrived at the meeting spot with Pierre and Johan. Pierre kept warning him, Otto and Delan never fought fair. They always brought backup. Erik, remembering his promise to his mother, changed his mind and left before the fight began. Back in their room, Pierre comforted Erik and helped calm his nerves. Meanwhile, Otto and Delan waited in vain. When Erik didn't show, Otto sneered, calling him a coward. The next day, Otto held a mock trial, announcing a list of students who had defied the student council. Erik was at the top. His punishment, dig a 1-meter-deep trench around the school. Erik worked through the night, but couldn't finish. That evening, he sat alone in the hallway for dinner. Maria, a cafeteria worker, approached and struck up a conversation. As Erik shared his story, she revealed that it reminded her of her own brother, someone who also stood up to authority. After the meal, Maria found Erik again. She warned him to take care of himself. Then, unexpectedly, she kissed him on the cheek and hugged him tightly. Both knew this moment crossed a line. Relationships between students and staff were forbidden. If discovered, Erik could be expelled and Maria fired. Still, it was a moment neither of them would forget. During Christmas break, Erik returned home. His mother greeted him warmly, but his stepfather was cold and suspicious, questioning his suspension and criticizing his choices. Once again, he resorted to violence. And once again, Erik's mother did nothing to stop it. Back at school, Erik rushed to find Maria. He had missed her deeply. Under the moonlight, they embraced. When Otto and Delan heard Erik was back, they plotted again. This time, they poured dirty water on his bed while he slept. But Erik and Pierre woke up, cleaned the mess, and decided it was time to strike back. That night, Erik snuck into Otto's room, turned off the lights, and dumped dirty water on him in return. The next morning, Erik walked into the dining hall and loudly joked about following a stench, stopping right in front of Otto. "Filthy Otto," he declared. Humiliated, Otto snapped and punched Erik repeatedly, but Erik didn't fight back, remembering his mother's words. Nearby teachers and the principal ignored the incident. Seeing this, Maria stepped in, urging Otto to stop. She was disappointed Erik didn't fight back, but respected his restraint. Otto and Delan, seeing they couldn't break Erik's spirit, turned their attention to Pierre. They called him out at lunch, but Pierre refused. Later, Otto threatened him to provoke Pierre and drag Erik into the mess. Pierre, knowing he had no choice, showed up that night for a fight. Otto's gang was waiting. Pierre stood his ground, but with a single blow, he was knocked unconscious. By the time Erik arrived, it was too late. He carried Pierre back to their room, tended to his wounds, and urged him to rest. The next morning, Pierre was gone. He had left a letter on the bed, thanking Erik for being his only real friend. He apologized for leaving, but encouraged Erik to keep fighting, for justice and for the students suffering under Otto's rule. The letter lit a fire in Erik's heart. He stormed into the dining hall and publicly challenged Otto to a fight in the arena. An hour later, Erik faced Otto's two strongest allies. Though they were physically stronger, Erik's speed and strategy allowed him to defeat them in ease. Silence fell over the arena. Erik turned to Otto, who was now stunned and alone. Before the final confrontation, Erik went to the kitchen to find Maria, hoping for her encouragement. Instead, a staff member told him Maria had been fired. She had left without saying goodbye. The staff handed Erik a letter from Maria. Her words were filled with love and strength. But one of Otto's lackeys saw Erik receive the letter and reported it. That night, Otto stormed into Erik's room, searched his belongings, and found the letter. Holding it like evidence, Otto took it straight to the principal. The principal reviewed the letter and expelled Erik for misconduct, citing the inappropriate relationship. Erik calmly accepted the decision, but asked to keep the letter. The principal refused and locked it in a drawer. Expelled and heartbroken, Erik was ready to walk away, but not without a final reckoning. He found Otto alone in the woods. Holding a stick, he ordered Otto to kneel. Terrified, Otto tried to bribe him with $10,000. Erik refused. As Otto sobbed, begged, and vomited in fear, Erik leaned down, stared into his eyes, and whispered, "I won't be like you. I don't hurt people for power." Then he walked away. Back at school, Erik called Gunnar and told him everything. Gunnar arrived swiftly and confronted the principal. When the principal refused to cooperate, Gunnar threatened legal action, exposing the school's culture of abuse and class discrimination. Cornered, the principal surrendered. Maria's letter was returned. Otto's student council was dismantled. Justice had been served. Erik stayed at Starburg and finished school with honor and pride.